welcome to today's webinar from me in a very rainy Hastings today. It's just gone 1 o'clock, so I'm just going to give everyone a chance to join, but do feel free to drop into the Q&A box and say hi. We've disabled the chat feature as we've discovered it can cause problems for some people using screen readers, but the Q&A option is still live. See the numbers going up. Just give it a few more moments for a few more people to join. Hello, Marilyn from Worcester. Glad you could make it today. Okay, see a few more people have joined, so I think we'll make a start now. So hello everyone, and welcome to our webinar, How to Avoid the 12 Scams of Christmas. I'm Annie Mannion, and I'm Digital Marketing Manager at AbilityNet, and I'll be running you through today's session. So glad you could make it today. So just to go through a few bits of housekeeping, we have live captions provided by My Clear Text, and you can turn on the captions using the CC option on the control panel. And additional captions are available via streamtext.net/player?event equals AbilityNet. And we also have slides available at slideshare.net/AbilityNet, and also on our website at abilitynet.org.uk/scams-webinar. If you have any technical issues or you need to leave early, don't worry, you'll receive an email in a couple of days' time with the recording, the transcript and the slides. And depending on how you joined the webinar, you'll find a Q&A window. So if you'd like to ask the panel any questions, do drop those in the Q&A area. And anything that we're unable to cover in today's session, we'll answer and add it to our website, again at /scams-webinar. So just a reminder for people that joined a little bit later, we've switched off the chat feature as we've discovered it can cause problems for some people using screen readers, but do use the Q&A field for any comments. And just lastly, we have a feedback survey you'll be directed to at the end, so please do complete that if you're able. So for those of you who aren't yet familiar with AbilityNet, we're now celebrating our 25th year this year, and we support older people and disabled people living with any disability or impairment to use technology to achieve their goals at home, at work and in education. And we do this by providing specialist advice, services, accessibility and inclusion testing and training, and free information like our fact sheets and this webinar. So today we're going to be discussing how to avoid the 12 scams of Christmas. And to discuss the topic today, we have joining us Holly Bowker, who is Cyber Prevent Officer in the Cybercrime Unit within Greater Manchester Police. And her expertise includes engaging with individuals who are on the verge of committing who've already committed cybercrimes, guiding them to more constructive paths. And we also have Lucy Walsh, who's a trainer with AbilityNet on our BT Digital Skills project, and she provides digital confidence training to clients in the Cardiff area mainly. And then we also have Alex Barker, who's worked for AbilityNet for nearly 20 years now, and he's a disability consultant at the charity. So hopefully by the end of today, you'll have collected some very useful pointers to bear in mind when faced with potential digital scams. So I'm just going to start with the poll to find out a bit more about everybody who's here before we start with the webinar content. So I'm just going to launch the poll. So you should be able to see on screen now, have you ever been the victim of a digital scam? So there's yes, no, not sure or not applicable. And depending on how you've joined the webinar, you may find you can't see the poll, but you can respond in the Q&A panel. So I'll just leave it a little bit longer for everybody to respond. Last few moments for everybody who wants to vote. Okay, I'm going to end the poll now and share the results. So, looking at the results, have you ever been the victim of a digital scam? We've got 33% who said yes, 53% no, 14% not sure, and then no results for not applicable. Okay, I'll stop sharing. And so I think, you know, it's useful to gauge the experiences of people who are joining us. And I think today's speakers will be able to offer some really great advice. So now over to AbilityNet's Alex and Lucy, who will outline the most common scams you might spot, particularly over the festive period, but beyond as well.
Sure, thanks, Annie. So I guess the first thing that I want to say is that although there's a lot of news at the moment about scams and a lot of news about people taking advantage of other people, the digital world is a wonderful place. I'll give you an example. I've got a rare disability, and I met my wife who's also got a rare disability. I was living in Coventry, or I was living in Coventry actually, and my lovely wife Erin was living in North Carolina in the States. We talked on Skype and we talked on FaceTime, and eventually we got to meet in person. We got married in 2018, and we just celebrated our 5th year together. And I would say that the internet brings a lot of people closer together. There's all sorts of things that you can do on the internet. Unfortunately, there are quite a number of scams, and we don't want to scare you on this presentation. We just want to highlight the scams that are going around at the moment. So if we could have the next slide, please, Annie. Okay, so first things first, what is a scam? And sometimes it's quite hard to define what a scam is. So a scam is a trick, a ruse, a swindle, a racket. Its nearest synonym is fraud. So think of a scam as a trick or fraud. And basically someone wants to take money or information from you. And as it's Christmas, we wanted to highlight some of the scams that you might experience. If we have the next slide, please. Okay, so there's not many days to go before Christmas, so the scammers are going to be really keen to try and convince you that you have missed a parcel from X, Y, and Z, and that to get this parcel, you need to pay some money. So we've got every FedEx and Royal Mail. And what they'll do is they'll send you a text or send you an email saying, you know, you've missed a parcel delivery. We want you to click on this link. You need to pay a re-delivery charge. To the best of my knowledge, no company will charge you for a re-delivery. They'll just take it back to the depot and then try and deliver it again. So what are our top tips for checking to see whether your delivery is legitimate or not? So check the email and telephone from the sender, or even go back to your original order and track the delivery from there. If you see any random links, please don't click on them because it will probably take you to a different website entirely. Can we have the next slide, please, Annie? Okay, so sometimes everyone knows it's quite expensive to send cards now in the post, and sometimes you don't actually know where people live, but you have got their email addresses. So lots of people send e-cards, but you know what you've got to do is if you receive an e-card, you've always got to check who the sender is. Do you recognise the name of the sender? Check who the card is sent to. Does it mention your friend? If someone sent me a new card, I would expect it to go to Alex. I would not expect it to go to my friend or a friend. Don't just assume that the card has a logo that is legitimate. Anyone can copy a logo from any website. And certainly don't download any exe files, because an exe file could cause you problems on your computer. You can also hover on the link to see the full details of where it's going to come from. If we could have the next slide, please. Okay, so money's tight at Christmas, and it's always really, really important to look out for finance scams. And there's many different scams that you can be taken advantage of by. So, for example, there's the one that says, "Oh, it looks like you've added a page to your account. If you haven't, click on a link." Or you might get an email reporting to Netflix or anyone else asking you to update your payment details. Or you might get an email message from your bank saying they've been trying to contact you and there's an issue with your account. So, signs to look out for that it might be a bit dodgy. So you might get a generic greeting. You might have the information that your account is on hold with a billing problem. Or it might invite you to click on a link to update or verify something. And our top tip is use antivirus software and keep software and apps up to date. And if an email looks suspicious, just don't click on it. Can we have the next slide, please? Okay, so at this time, with a lot of people traveling around, you might be a victim of a family impersonation scam. When someone gets hold of your when someone gets hold of your details, what might happen is that they purport to be your son or your daughter or your aunt and uncle, and they basically say, "I'm stuck in an airport, I need some money, can you help me?" And what you've got to do, you've got to call that original number that you saved with that person. So if you get a message from your dad, actually call your contact number in your phone. Does the wording sound like your family member? It might say, for example, "to my favourite son." Well, my dad would never say "to my favourite son" because he's only got one son. And it might be a good idea to ask a question that only your family member could answer. And it's really important that you do this because so many people have got scammed from just thinking, "Oh, it's one of my relations, I need to do something to help." We always say that family brings a search emergency, of course it does, but what you've got to do is stop and think. Can we have the next slide, please? Okay, so the last slide that I'm going to talk about before Lucy takes over is tech support scams. I wonder if I could ask you, Annie, to play that recording for me.
Hello? Hello? Yes. We are calling you from the computer technical department, and it's a call about your Windows computer, okay? So am I talking to the main owner of the computer?
Yeah, what do you think my computer's doing?
We are getting some errors and warning messages from your computer, sir, okay? Whenever you check mails, browse the internet at that point of time, these messages unknowingly get downloaded in your computer, without your knowledge, without your permission, okay? Making your computer slower day by day, and they are not the viruses, okay? So this is a security checkup call. Since you are the main owner of the computer, is your computer switched on?
What organization are you calling from?
Sorry?
What organization are you calling from?
We are calling you from the Windows support, and we are a team of Microsoft certified technicians.
All of my computers are Linux.
So basically, that was a call from someone who was reporting to me from a technical support team. What we would say is, please don't panic, hang up, and if you want to check, find the company's official website and Netflix customer service phone number. And please, whatever you do, don't allow remote access. And the thing to say on this, I don't know whether you noticed, but they never said that they were from Microsoft. They said that we are the Windows Technical Support Service. And, you know, what I said before, don't panic and hang up. It will be a random call. You're just being targeted because they found your number somehow. But please don't panic and do anything rash. Now, my colleague Lucy is going to talk about some more scams of Christmas.
Thanks, Alex. Okay, so following on from Alex, I'll outline a few other common scams. One that's been in the media most recently, I think, are the romance frauds, the romance scams. Very often, more often than not, it would be females, but not necessarily, maybe targeted through social media, potentially with photographs of people in very glamorous locations, possibly across the other side of the world, where they make create a fake profile. Where they would create a fake profile and try and gain their trust to make a relationship online. At some point, it's likely that the scammer will then ask their target for some money and hope that they receive it. And the ways in which they could do that, they could say that they were isolated in a particular location, that they can't get across to visit the person without having this money, or they're in some kind of danger. And they rely on that trusting individual to send money across to them, and then that scammer would receive the money and then disappear. Some things we say to look out for, as we've said, they'll say they're far away. Their profile will often seem too good to be true. They may very well try and isolate the individual, asking them not to speak to other people about it, it being their own little secret, and the relationship can feel like it's moving too quickly. Perhaps they're talking about marriage, that kind of thing. They may very well make promises to come and visit you, but then don't ever fulfill those promises, and then that they will ask for money, and they may very well ask for specific payment methods. So those are the romance frauds, something to look out for. Next slide, please. Okay, pet scams. So this one says here, meet your new best friend, pedigree schnauzer puppies available now. They'll have very often a reasonable cost for the pet, sometimes cheaper than you might get it elsewhere, again, as a way of luring you in. They may very well ask for a deposit, and that will need to be by bank transfer, of course, and they'll tell you that that will secure the puppy, the dog for you, or whatever pet it might be. Often they'll likely put pressure on you, tell you that there's just one of those kinds of dogs left. They've got other people that are interested in that particular pet. So if you need to secure that animal, you'll need to do it quickly. And also we're suggesting that you be wary of stock images. And if you look at that photograph there, they are likely to be images of beautiful, cute looking pets that have been taken from other websites, and perhaps not the realistic ones that you would see taken in somebody's home. And our tip there is to research, compare prices and breeders, review the seller's reviews and history, and if you can, use recommendations from trusted friends and families. And if thinking of buying pets, it's really important to make an arrangement to see that pet in person. Next slide, please. Okay, thank you. This particular one here is the energy scam, energy fraud. Alex has touched on something similar a little bit earlier. This one shows us a text from gov.uk luring people in, saying that they are eligible for discounted energy bills or possibly money back, and suggesting that you apply by selecting a link via a text message. You can see on this particular one that the telephone number at the top of the text just seems to be a random number, doesn't seem to be coming from gov.uk or anywhere that you think might be legitimate. And on these, we just say, stop and think. Does it seem too good to be true? Does the information you're getting look like it's from a real energy company? Come out of that text message and go into your energy provider or onto gov.uk if that's who it's purporting to be from, and research. You could search in their search bar discounted energy costs and see if there are any offers there or energy bill support. Do you feel that you're being pressured to transfer any money or give details that perhaps you would feel would be unnecessary? Are you being asked to pay in an unusual way? For example, scammers may ask you to transfer money or use iTunes vouchers, for example. And are you being asked to give away your personal information, passwords and PINs, other verification codes, which a legitimate organisation would not expect you to provide? And the next one for us, scam number 9, fake websites. So on here, we would always say that we look at the top there. You can see the HTTPS, and that helping you to identify whether it is a secure website. There's also the picture of the padlock we would encourage people to look for, but sometimes that may not be enough. Scammers are getting smarter. So our advice again is, before you click on anything, read the homepage, check that web address, come off that site and revisit it again. Check whether it's a paid search engine advert. And if you are looking to purchase anything, it's much safer to do so using a credit card. Keep your accounts secure using strong and different passwords if you can, and only complete mandatory details, not giving anything, any passwords away. Next slide, please. Fake rewards and prizes. I'm sure we would have all been seeing this kind of thing very often in emails, text, social media, where you are again being lured in to click on a link that looks completely genuine. Well, I'm looking at the Aldi one here in the center of the page, and it's wanting you to click on a link and probably asking you to complete some personal details and luring you in, telling you that you'll get some kinds of reward. On here, we've got something from EE, we've got something from Aldi and John Lewis Black Friday. Our tip is to challenge what you see, critical thinking, look at it. Is it too good to be true? You can research even in Google, and very often you will find through Google that if there are common scams, that they will be listed there. And can you find the same information in more than one place? Can you go to a trusted source? So again, this is about perhaps not selecting that link if it's coming to you through social media, coming out of it and searching, let's say, the Aldi site, and going on to the Aldi website and seeing if they are offering everybody a £250 coupon. So just question what you see. And number 11, please. Fake endorsements here. It says, sadly, the scams are not going to disappear overnight. This is from Richard Branson here on the left. I would urge everyone to be vigilant and always check for official website addresses and verified social media accounts. And we can see here very often they will use people, and we've got Richard Branson here and Martin Lewis endorsing particular scams, schemes, offers, and trying to convince readers that it is perfectly safe. And that might not necessarily be the case. If we see here, we would need to read things very, very carefully to see if this advert really has come from the Sun. As we see in the center of that one, it says it's come from the Sun. So just read things carefully, and don't necessarily believe everything that you see. Again, come back out and research on that website. And the 12th one for us. Okay, car parking scams. I'm sure we've all had to pay for parking. And this is about when you are using your phone to use a QR code, for example. And what we understand is that scammers are overlaying those QR stickers with fake ones that will take you through to different sites and encourage you to put payment details in that way. So make sure that you've downloaded any parking apps through your official app store, Pay Store, or you may even want to, if you prefer to use the telephone, to make sure that you're getting through to the official car parking payments site. Thank you. Next slide. I think that's over to, is that you, Alex?
It is me. Thanks, Lucy, for that.
Okay, no worries.
Thanks for that comprehensive list. Okay, so what can we do to stay safer? Well, there are a number of things we can do. So if we could have the next slide, please. So prevention is always better than a cure. So the first thing that you can do is to check or make sure that you've got your antivirus is all up to date. Passwords, make sure that you've got comprehensive passwords. They're not just password 1, 2, 3, 4. You would not believe the amount of people that have got those passwords. Check a website. .site is a really good website to get some information about a potential dodgy website. There's a website called haveibeenpawned.com, which is all about making sure that no one else has got your information, because it's quite easy for criminals to sell information to other people. Always make sure that you've got padlocks on your browser. If you are using your credit card on a browser which hasn't got a padlock, you've just got to be a bit concerned. Personal information stays personal. Don't share your personal information around with people, because they might not be as trustworthy as you think, and they might use their website and computer to defraud you with some of the information that you've given them. And these are just some of the steps that you can prevent cybercrime and scams. And if you have
Thanks so much, Alex and Lucy. Some really great ideas and examples, and hopefully it's given you a good idea of some of the flavour of the things that can help with some of the common issues you might face. So now I'd like to introduce Holly Bowker from Greater Manchester Police. She's going to provide some advice about what you can do to stay safer online.
That's great. Thank you very much, Annie. So as Annie said, yes, my name's Holly Bowker and I am the Cyber Prevent Officer for Greater Manchester Police. So if we just go on to the next slide, I'll talk to you about how cyber policing looks in the UK currently. So the first one, if we can just click, is prepare. And basically, that's a team of officers who sit in my office and they work alongside organisations to sort of plan responses to cyber incidents and try and do that one step ahead approach of the cyber criminals. Then the next one is protect. So that is a little bit like what I'm doing today, and that is to reduce the vulnerability of people in our communities from the threat of cybercrime. So basically, anybody and everybody who will listen to me, I will talk to them about staying safe online. The next one, please, is cyber prevent. So that is my specific role. So I work with people who are on the cusp of cybercrime or involved in low-level cybercrime. This does tend to be young people. And what I try and do is, opposed to giving them a criminal record at a young age, I try to educate them and divert them into something positive in digital and cyber so they can help us bridge the digital skills gap. And the last one, so that is our pursue officers. So they pursue the offenders. So you may be more used to seeing these on TV programs. They're the ones who do the morning raids. And if somebody has been an offender of a cybercrime, it might be there where they start to take their devices and things like that. And the next one, please. Okay, so obviously Alex and Lucy have touched on passwords, but I think it's really important that we just mention that a lot of the incidents that come into my office could be prevented by having better passwords. So I'm not trying to teach anybody how to suck eggs, but I think it's really important to say, do not disclose your passwords to anybody else. Especially younger children in the family, you know, grandchildren. I do a lot of school talks where I will talk about passwords with year 5, 6 upwards, and they tell me your passwords. So I would advise that you don't tell anybody your passwords. And having a look at those passwords, don't use anything personal in your passwords. People use personal things in passwords because that makes them easy to remember, but don't use things like pets' names, children's names, favorite bands, football teams, because if that information is out there about you, it means that somebody can guess it, and then it'll make it really easy to crack your password. Weak passwords can be hacked in seconds, and this is why we say save these passwords to browser managers and password apps. So the last bit here that says ensure that all your accounts have different passwords. Most people panic hearing this, thinking again, how on earth would I remember them all? But that is why we say it is safer to use a password manager app on your phone or your device, or at the top of your browser. It'll often come up saying, remember this password. Use that function. If in doubt, write them in the back of a book and put them in a drawer at your home. It is better to have a different password for every account than it is to have the same password. And this is because if they guess one password, and then they pop it into all your accounts, you're then locked out of everything. So the next slide, please. I'm going to tell you about how we make a strong password. So this is government guidance, but we advise 3 random words. We always say long and strong passwords are the key. So we've got 3 random words here: pen, apple, fish. The chances of that being guessed are, you know, very, very slim. And what we also say is the magic number is 12. So the reason we say this is cyber criminals do something called brute force attack. And basically what that means is they systematically go through the characters of your password, so letters, numbers, punctuation marks, to try and hack your password and crack the code. If your password is a mixture of sort of letters, numbers, symbols, and over 12 characters in length, it can actually take years for somebody to be able to crack that password. Okay, on to the next slide, please. Okay, updates. So lots of people will see updates coming up on their phones, laptops, computers, any other device that they might have. And a lot of people think, oh, not that again, because they have to put it down and they have to let it upload, which takes time, and it takes you time away from your device. But updates include protection from viruses and malicious software, that could maybe come onto your device through way of apps and things like that. So as you can see, one of the symbols is a sticking plaster. What these updates do is they stick a plaster over the top of the weakness, and it stops those cyber criminals from getting through. Okay, on to the next slide, please. Okay, 2-step verification. The easiest way to describe this is it is just that 2 layers of security. So if you are leaving your home, you might set your alarm and lock your front door. This is the same for your devices. It is just that extra layer to keep the cyber criminals out of your account. It's twice the protection. And even if, say, for example, a criminal was to get into your to get your password, they then, without that 2-step verification, wouldn't then be able to get into your emails. It often comes by way of a PIN or a code that is sent to you by text or email, and then you'll need to input that number onto the legitimate website to prove that it is you. I think Alex mentioned it earlier about the hi mum, hi dad scams. This is one that preys on people sending that two-step verification. So they'll say, hi mum, you know, I've dropped my phone. I need to use somebody else's phone. I have sent you the two-step verification that I need to get in. But actually what they're doing is they're sending you a link to send them your two-step verification code. And once you do that, they've got access to everything of yours. So definitely don't ever send anybody your two-step verification code, and try and upload them to devices, because it is that extra layer of security. Next slide, please. Okay, so again, Alex touched on this earlier. It is called Have I Been Pwned? Please don't type it in wrong, because it might get you in all sorts of bother. But basically, this website is really good. You put your email address into it, and it will tell you if you have had any data breaches on your account. So that means basically that your data may have been sold on, your personal information may have been sold on when you have used a particular website or downloaded a particular app. Most people who put their email address into this site will have some sort of data breach. So don't panic, all is not lost. All you need to do is it will tell you where the data breach is. So say, for example, it says an app that you use, say Facebook. You just need to go onto your Facebook and change that password, and then it becomes obsolete. Nobody can use it against you. The longer you have had an email address, the more likely you are to have had some sort of breach. So like I say, try that out yourselves and see what it brings up, and just make sure you change those passwords where the information has been leaked. Okay, on to the next slide, please. Right, so we're going to talk a little bit about phishing. And phishing is basically when cybercriminals send scam emails to trick victims to basically clicking on some sort of link to go to a website. And as Lucy and Alex alluded to, it will ask you to type in your details. And a lot of the time, this is something called spoofing. So they will replicate a website very, very well, may I add, to try and get you to believe that it is that legitimate website. And then you will input your details, and then obviously you have shared your personal data, and they can use that against you. Spear phishing. So again, it's another type of phishing, but it's where they target potentially like maybe a finance department. So they may pose as a board member or a managing director and email the finance department asking for funds to be released. This happens quite a lot in businesses. Whaling is a sort of the flip side of that, where they may pose as admin or the finance department and contact board members or managing directors, asking them for vital information, passwords to things that will help them do their job. Lots of people fall foul of these two in employment because they're very busy, so they skim read things and they maybe miss some of the vital signs that I'm going to tell you about. Smishing, so that is SMS phishing, so text message phishing. And again, that's like some of those ones that you may have seen sent earlier from the Post Office, Royal Mail, DPD, that kind of thing. Vishing, that's voice phishing. So these are often HMRC scams and government scams where they will pose as the government and say you owe a specific amount of money, and if you don't send it, we're going to send the bailiffs to your address. With all of these, there is always a matter of urgency. They always like to put pressure on, and it is that advice of just taking 5, just stepping back, bouncing the idea off someone. Do you think this is right? If someone's shouting at you down the phone, put the phone down, don't engage. Have a look at the actual website, the legitimate website. Go onto a search engine like Google or Bing and type that in. A lot of the time things will come back and say that they're not legitimate, or it'll tell you about ongoing scams. So yeah, if you're in doubt, never ever click on the links or respond to what they're saying. You can forward emails on to report@phishing.gov.uk, and the government will try and take down these people who are sending these things out. And you can also report it via text to 7726, which spells spam on an old mobile phone. On to the next slide, please. Okay, so I'm going to put you to the test a little bit. I know we have no chat function today, so you can either have a think about it and just jot it down for yourself, keep it in your mind, or if you want to put it in the Q&A, you're very welcome to. But I'm just going to give you a few seconds to have a look at this page and think about how many letter Fs are on the page. So just have a look around, see what you think. I'm not going to give you loads of time, but like I say, have a look, see what looks most to you, and then I'm going to give you the answer in a moment. Okay, so hopefully you've had a little bit of a think about that. So if you could just do one click, please. Okay, so most people will see these ones here, and most people will think that there is the the 7 that you can see there, and if we just do one more click, it will show to also incorporate the 2 at the top in official. The reason that I show this is just to make you think about skim reading. So like I said earlier, lots of times we skim read things, it looks just like United Utilities website, so it must be legitimate, and that is how people fall foul of these scams. Unfortunately, we have to be a little bit more cynical. So we need to start looking for the small details on pages that we can identify the real from the fake. So that was just a little test to you guys, but on to the next one, please. Okay, so we're just going to look a little bit closer in phishing. So it says here, let's start with the Google document email. So this is an email that's been sent, and we want to be sure to check out the sender's details first. Then we want to click on the URL, so these links by either hovering over them or using a long press with your mouse. And we want to explore this email address. So one more click for me, please. Okay, so it says here that it's from Luke Johnson to me. And the next email, please. Okay, so if we click into this further, for the purpose of this, I am Mark Smith, but it's an email from Luke to Mark, and it's been sent at 11:57 at night, and it's a departmental budget. Okay, on to the next click, please. And then in this document, you can just see that this is a HTTP drive-google.com/Luke Johnson. Okay, so have a little bit of a think about what you might think about this. To you, does this look legitimate? Does this look fake? Again, you can pop it in the Q&A if you want to, or you can just have a bit of a think about it. One thing that I would mention that I think Alex mentioned earlier, so we're looking at HTTP. There is no S, there is no padlock there, so it might be a bit of a telltale sign. If we just do one more click, so mousing over this link or using a long press will show you that it actually goes to an insecure imitation domain. So basically, if you were to copy that into Google or a search engine, you would find that it doesn't exist. So a lot of the time, I would say, if you get an email, go off the email and log into your legitimate account. If there is something that you need to know, it will be on the legitimate account and you'll be able to change it there. But if you click onto one of these links, then it'll take you somewhere to pop your details in that can again be used against you. One more click, please. So yeah, that's a phishing link. And on to the next one. Okay, so these are some really useful resources that if you are ever a victim of fraud or think you have been, then you can get in touch with them. So there's Action Fraud here. That is the National Fraud and Cyber Reporting Centre. It's really good because it is national. It means that we can support victims who are in the sort of one area, whilst also the relevant police force can be hunting down the criminals in another area. So it doesn't all have to happen. Then that can go to the relevant police force so we can help people. It has a phone line that you can call and speak to a real person, which sometimes is really beneficial. But if you're wanting to do something quickly, you can do it online. Someone can report on your behalf, and it's really simple and easy to use. Okay. There's the National Cyber Security Centre. So that is the government website that provides all the most up-to-date advice on sort of fraud, scams, and cyber. It's really good because, again, there's a lot more detail on how to set your passwords and things like that on there. If you've got other accounts that you might use, it might have more specific details on there of how to strengthen those accounts from cyber criminals. And again, like I say, it'll keep you up to date with the most recent scams and frauds that are going on. Then there's the Cyber Resilience Centre. So they also work with businesses, but they also offer other bits of advice. Again, just about what's going on in the current climate and how we can protect ourselves against it. Think Jessica. This was actually created by a lady called Jessica, who was a victim of a fraud and scam. and she's made there's a paper booklet, but there's also an online version that you can get hold of, and it talks about all the different types of scams that we've mentioned today, but in a little bit more detail. Knowledge is power, as they say, so the more you know about something, the better you can be prepared to protect yourself against it. And I think I mentioned earlier about stepping back and taking 5. This is one of the big the fraud campaigns that is out there, and it's about just walking away from your device, just giving your brain chance to process what you've seen and whether actually, wait a minute, is that right? It's not a nice advice to give, but I do say be cynical. You know, think twice, be suspicious about things, because unfortunately there's some not very nice people out there who are trying to either get your money or your data. Okay, on to the next one. Okay, so just again, that was a whistle-stop tour, but a bit of a review. So create a separate password for your email at the very least, and make it, on the next one, sorry, make it long and strong. So I often just, whatever room that I'm in, have a look around that room, you know, light switch, whatever, put it all together, and then I either save it in my notes or save it on a password manager, and then it's easy to remember. Next one, please. Yep, so as I just said, use those password managers or another secure method to keep your passwords safe. Turn on that 2-step verification. It's just that extra layer of security. Update your devices. Again, like I say, it just stops cyber criminals from getting access to the data that you have on your device, and it's that sticking plaster. And the last one is also turning on backups. So save your personal information and things to another device, a USB, the cloud. Save those things, because if you are a victim and you lose all your information, then it's a lot easier to recover that information when you've got it saved to something else. Yep, and that's it for me. So everything that I have said today is up to date from today, but do check that National Cybersecurity Centre website for the most up to date on everything cyber. Thank you.
Oh, great. Thank you so much, Holly, for such valuable advice. And just a quick reminder, you can access all the slides via our webinar page, which is abilitynet.org.uk/scams webinar. So just before we move on to the Q&A from all of you, I just wanted to check in again with everyone to find out about your confidence with tackling online scams, having heard all the ideas from the guest speakers today. So here's another poll for everybody to answer. I'll just launch it now. So do you now feel better informed to identify potential scams? So the answers are yes, no, not sure, or not applicable. And again, depending on how you've joined the webinar, you may find you can't see the poll, but please do respond in the Q&A panel if you'd like. Just give everybody a chance to answer. Numbers creeping up. There's a clear contender, which is a relief. So just give everybody a last chance to participate. And I'll end the poll now. And the results are a resounding yes, you do feel better informed to identify potential scams. That's 93% of you. 1% is no. So hopefully when we send around some further information after today, that might help. 3% not sure and 3% not applicable. So thank you. Yeah, we'll share more tips with you in the email follow-up that you'll receive on Thursday this week. So now moving on to the Q&A. I'm sure you've all got a lot of questions you'd like to ask the panel. So if you have a question, please fire away in the Q&A window. I doubt we'll manage to cover everything right now, so we'll capture any unanswered questions on our website in the next couple of days, and you'll be sent a link to access them. I'm just going to have a look through now. There's a question from Sasha that came through on email. You can mark phishing as phishing, but where does that go? That might be a good question for Holly.
Yeah, so it goes to the National Cybersecurity Centre that I mentioned. So they are the ones who are working in the background to try and take these people down. Obviously, they do create things quite quickly, but when you forward it there, you know, they will do the things in the background that they need to prevent that from coming through to you again.
Lovely, thank you. Good advice. And also, we just had some comments. Somebody called Paula said she's just had a scam call as the session's going on. What are the chances? So yeah, it just shows how rife the scams are. We've got a question from Surinder. Do you have any tips about wanting to inform new users of the internet about scams without scaring them off using the internet? This might be one for Alex and Lucy to cover. I know Alex, yeah.
So I think the answer for Surinder is you've got to empower people to make the right decisions, not to get scammed or scammed. I certainly think if you tell them, okay, what's good a website hygiene, you go to websites that have got padlocks. If you haven't got padlocks, don't put your details in. Don't, you know, always think twice before responding to anything, because it might be a scam email. Always talk to family members if you've got a suspicious email or text from them. You know, by making sure you've got all the little hints and tips at your disposal, you didn't go far wrong. Would you agree with me, Lucy?
I would indeed, yes, Alex, yeah. But I think it's worth saying that it can be scary, can't it, for new users of the internet? Yeah, I mean, because there's as exactly as Holly said, I think she said there are a lot of nasty people out there who are trying to get your data and or your money. But yeah, I think following some of the hints and tips, particularly that Holly has said, particularly around passwords and yeah, and talking to other people before, and just making sure, for me, it's always about coming out of wherever those links are. Wherever they are, don't click, come out of them, think, check out, and then go back in. Yeah.
Thank you. So just moving on to another question. This might be one for Holly. Can you tell us about cards, like credit cards, which have limited funds for buying online? Is that something that you're able to share a bit more about?
In terms of like bank cards, I'm assuming.
Yeah, I believe so.
Well, I think there's sort of benefits and risks to everything. And like I think Lucy said earlier, you know, using credit cards and using things like PayPal is a way of sort of monitoring where your money is going more efficiently. And like I said, a lot of the time, your bank or your credit card company or PayPal, they're able to sometimes fight those incidents on your behalf, so you're more likely to get the money back. I think sometimes, yeah, there is limits on cards with spending. I suppose that can be maybe a benefit to you, or sometimes an inconvenience. It really just depends on what you're doing. But I think if you research, it's quite difficult to say unless I know who the card's from. But I think if you do your research, you know, you read up on it, and you are comfortable with that. And like I say, you can always go onto the legitimate websites to make sure what the most up-to-date advice is.
Thank you. Just a kind of brief recap on, this is a question from Robert. Since I'm unsure on a recap, can one find out if one's email address has been invaded? I know that, you know, have I been pawned will tell you where your email address might have been used, but does it also tell you about if your email itself has been invaded?
No, it doesn't, but it is likely that you would know. So obviously a lot of the information that is in your email, most people have everything in their email, you know, their energy providers, their bank, that kind of thing. So it is likely that you would know, because they wouldn't keep hold of those for very long. They would use them. Like I say, changing those passwords with You've Been Pwned Have I Been Pwned is really good, because again, that information becomes obsolete. And And like I say, if you've got that two-step verification on, even if they've got your password, without them having that code, they can't get in anyway.
Okay, thank you. Got a few other questions here. Does using your Google Wallet pose a security risk?
I suppose it's, again, there's risks to everything. It's a bit how long's a piece of string. I'm sure, not that off the top of the head that I've dealt with, but I'm sure, you know, there has been incidents where somebody has managed to get into that. I know sometimes when people pay contactless, a lot of the time they're now handing out the little cards that stop people who are going around potentially trying to scan those. I don't have any personal experience of that. But again, there might be some information on the National Cybersecurity website that actually outlines it.
Another piece of information that also might be on the National Information Security website might be, there was a question, how do you check whether your security is up to date? Is that something that you can find out there, or is there another set of tips that you might be able to offer?
I think by doing those regular updates, you know, that is keeping in check with what the most recent update is for your device. So that will be staying that one step ahead of the cyber criminals. Say, for example, they've tried to get in, I don't know, using a particular app. By way of update, that will then come to you as that sticking plaster, keeping your device most up to date from the current threats. There may be, again, further advice, like I say, on that National Cybersecurity website. But again, looking for reputable antivirus and things like that are always good security methods as well.
Thank you. I think we've got time just for one more question. How do I verify if a phone number is a fraud? I know you can check on, you know, the official website, but somebody says they've made a purchase to a voucher from their company, but the number keeps requesting the bank details. I don't know if that's a type of fraud you've heard of before.
So there is fraud where people are asked to buy gift vouchers. Be very wary of somebody asking for bank details in any capacity. I would say that is a strong indicator that something is a little bit untoward. So I definitely wouldn't give those. A lot of the newer mobile phones do detect scam and fraud numbers, and again, that's through that reporting function, that's 7726. So if you think that is a scam, you can forward that number on to 7726 to prevent other people becoming victim of that. But if you feel that is not legitimate, I would say potentially make a report to Action Fraud, and they can look into it for you on your behalf. But definitely don't be giving anybody any sort of banking details.
Yeah. Okay. So there is just one, hopefully, just brief question that might be important for everybody to hear, which is there any way to validate a QR code before you scan it?
Not that I'm aware of, because it's very new. I think they're referring to it as quishing now, so another one of the phishing type things. So it's very new. I think same with when I talk about using like free Wi-Fi and things like that, which I've not mentioned in this, but I think speaking to where you are. So say, for example, that's in a shopping centre. You would think that someone who has a stall in a shopping centre is legitimate, but just double check and go and speak to the information. It may be that someone's just pitched up a table and got that QR code there. Like I think Lucy or Alex mentioned earlier, they sticking them over parking. Just have a little feel, you know, check those things. And if in doubt, use another form of payment. Lots of people use them to get feedback, and they're really handy and quick to do surveys on. So there is loads of benefits to using QR codes, but I think the best thing to do is check wherever you are. If there is somebody at an information point that you can ask, same again with public Wi-Fi. Say you're in McDonald's, just ask which one is the correct one. Is this your QR code, so I can enter the competition? And the staff will know the answer.
Fantastic, thank you. Sorry for the questions that we haven't been able to answer live, but we'll try and get to them all in the /scams webinar link after the webinar is completed. So thank you so much, Alex, Lucy, Holly, and Judith, who's with my clear text today, and also to my colleagues Kelly and Freya that are helping in the background. So just to share a bit more information with you that might be of interest. So as mentioned before, that AbilityNet offers free IT support at home and online, plus a range of free tech-related fact sheets and webinars on our website. So you can call our helpline on 0300 180 0028, and calls cost no more than a national rate to call to an 01 or 02 number. And you can get free tech support if you look at /at-home. And then also, if you feel you have the tech skills and that you'd like to share as a volunteer, then we'd love to hear from you. So you can find out more about that at /volunteer. And then also, Lucy is joining us as part of our work with BT Group. And as part of this, we're offering free digital skills training to support older people 65 years and older in London, Birmingham, Manchester, Glasgow, Edinburgh and Cardiff and surrounding areas. So you can find out more and register at abilitynet.org.uk/BT Digital Skills. So you can choose to book a group session or a one-to-one session in a communal space or at home, and you receive some fact sheets and a jargon buster as part of that. And the training provided is on quite a wide range of topics, including staying safer online, using social media, watching TV, accessing public services, banking and shopping online, and loads more. So do get in touch. And we also run online training sessions about digital accessibility and inclusion. And you can find out more at /training. And if you use the code AbilityNet webinar 10 when booking, you can save 10% on all our courses. And coming up, we have a free course, how to build a disability inclusive workplace, followed by how to create accessible documents and presentations, very popular course, and also accessible social media. So those are coming up next year. And then if you're joining us from an organisation looking for staff training, we also have e-learning that employees can complete at any time online. So that's at /e-learning on our website. And then just finally, you can also sign up to our newsletter for latest advice about inclusion. And don't forget about the next free webinars that you can access at /webinars. So thanks again to everyone who's joined us. Please do complete the feedback form that you'll be directed to, and we'll be in touch with you soon. So bye everyone, and have a great 2024.
Bye.
All the best.